And welcome into In-Game Chat for Saturday, December the 14th. There we go. 2024, it is season 18, episode 42, as I have it written down here. 794 on the total episode list. There we are. As you can see, it's just me today. RJ's off in Atlanta for Anime Week in Atlanta out there. And, you know, thought about maybe not doing one because he's not here, but we also had the Game Awards, so kind of some stuff to talk about there, right? Rather than waiting a whole week. Plus, at the end of the year, because of Christmas, New Year's, that sort of thing, we'll do 2 weeks of replays coming up later on this month. And I think my plan is to get RJ back, talk to him next week, and then that'll be our last show of the year, and then we'll do 2 weeks of replays from that and go from there, which I believe is what we're going to do, just to give him the chance to come back, talk about, you know, some games he's played, talk about anything, really, just to have him back on, rather than go like 3 weeks without him or whatever. So that's what we're going to do, and thank you so much for joining us. If you want to get in touch with us, then hit up the Discords, hit up the emails, hit up the Facebooks, the Blue Skies, the Twitters, the everything else that you can get in touch with us with. We are on Twitter and Blue Sky with In-Game Chat over there. You can also find us on Facebook, same way there. Email us, everyone at ingamechat.net, and we are streaming right now on twitch.tv. Go to Twitch. Well, yeah, what I said. Go to twitch.tv, type in In-Game Chat, and then you'll be able to find us. You'll be able to watch us live while we broadcast the show. So, fun for me to carry on the full 2 hours of the program here. Luckily for me, there's at least 2 hours worth of content to talk about. And, you know, I meant to have this queued up, and I completely went way out of my mind. But I wanted to queue up the guy from Larian Studios, I believe, from the Game Awards. There's a couple of people I really should have queued up to have their speech that they were given. And not necessarily the winners so much as it is, one winner and one presenter specifically. But we'll get to that a little bit later on here in the program. Just to talk about what we've played, however, and, you know, what's been going on. I can't really speak for much. I've been playing the Marvel Snap. That's really just kind of what I've been doing. Sort of getting me through until I was deciding on what I was going to play, and that decision was easily made for me with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Not only the reviews that it was getting, the just accolades that it was earning here at the end of the year, but the fact that it's on Game Pass, which gives me practically no reason to not play it. So, yeah, I'm going to play it, and I started playing it this morning, actually. I was putting it off because, I really wanted to play it on PC, because it's like first person, right? It kind of goes hand in hand with PC. But nope, I'm playing it with a controller. And I could not... I guess I could play it with a mouse and keyboard. I should look into that. I did not even give it a second thought. I started with it, and I went through, and I was doing my settings and everything else, but as soon as the game started proper, I just plugged in a controller and went to town. I should try it without one, just to see. Because the controls have not yet become that instinctual thing that you get when you're playing with a controller, where you know what the button presses are, sort of not in your sleep. You know, you obtain the muscle memory for them on a long game, however long that game is, but it's going to be my focus gaming-wise from here until I finish it. And anyway, was waiting for the patch, and I was just going to see how that was going to affect performance. Not bad at all. Now, I'm not comparing it to my Xbox, my Series X that I have. I'm not really comparing it to that because I have not even loaded it up on that. I've just played it on PC, which is another first. Leave it to that specific game to make me give in to my hesitation for using, you know, the Xbox Windows app, games on Windows thing, whatever. I've heard some horror stories about it. I've heard it's random. It is just completely sporadic. It may happen, it may not. If it doesn't happen to you when you load up a game, it doesn't matter. It might happen while the game's still installed. So for however long you have it installed, it's a possibility that it might happen. It's not going to brick your machine. It's not anything like that. But what it does is it leaves little bits of the game on your PC that you can't get rid of. It's little bits of the game which leave it to me to make a mountain out of a molehill, really, to be so concerned for something so minute. But yeah, it'll stay there, and you really you can't get rid of it. It just stays there. And then maybe you add something else. Maybe you decide, maybe another game comes out, and I say, that went okay with Indiana Jones. Let me put another one. So I do. Then I survive that one maybe, and I just feel like, it's fine. And then eventually it happens. And it's not really a big deal. It leaves little bitty traces of it that apparently you can't erase, from what I understand. It's annoying to me. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that something stays on there and I can't get rid of it. Or something that I installed, I can't pull everything off of it. But oh well. All in the name of a great game, right? All in the name of a property that, that's having its due. And I'm grateful for it, and I have enjoyed what I've played so far, but it is, again, mountain out of a molehill. I played very, very, very tiny bit of it. I am not in any sort of meat of the game, any sort of meat of the story. I am very, very early in the game. Mainly because, and it runs great, by the way. I run a 3080 on a 5800 X3D AMD processor with 64 gigs of RAM, and my 3080 happens to be an EVGA, one of those, I don't know, a bunch of different letters on the card, for the win, 3 things, stuff like that. Anyway, what all that means is the 3080 I picked up, ever how many years ago I bought it, I went with the 12 gigabyte VRAM 3080. There was the 8, there was the 10, there was the 12. And I went with the 12. And apparently, that was a good choice. Took me forever to pay it off because it was an expensive card at the time. But I did. And I have a 12 gig VRAM card that can handle a lot of what's being thrown at it at my resolution, at everything else that I'm using. I'm running at 1440p. And I have no desire to run it in 4K. So everything's running really good. It looks really, really good on the PC. But the more I play it, the more I'm like, and I've got to remember this. This is something I have to remember whenever I hem and haw over the stats of what my PC is going to be able to do to run something. Even when I get it running. Cyberpunk 2077 may be a different beast altogether, but what Machine Games has with the Indie series is something that it runs really, really well regardless of your machine. And when I play it, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'd be fine running this on my Series X. Now, I haven't put it on there to really get an idea. Maybe if I play it long enough on my PC and then I decide to say, I want to play it in the other room on my Series X, and I do, maybe I'll see something then. Maybe if my eyes are adjusted, or at least, what's the word? My eyes are focused on seeing a certain quality of the game on my PC, seeing it at 4K on a 65-inch television screen, maybe the faults stick out more. Maybe it doesn't look as good, but at the same time, maybe it's so good that the game is just so good, I don't care. You know what I mean? I do that a lot with my video games. PC I always pick because I'm like, you know what? I've got a Steam Deck, so if it's portable, I can play it there. And I can get the best, the best looking game compared to my other stuff. And I think with other games, that probably might make a difference. I don't necessarily know. And I mean, there's videos out there where you can see, Digital Foundry have done a fantastic job breaking down this game. Anybody who is a PC enthusiast, anybody who is just interested in how video games run with hardware and with everything that they're doing to make it look as good as it looks, Digital Foundry is the way to go for anybody listening. I imagine the enthusiasts that are listening already know this, but just the casual listeners who just keep us on in the background, that's really something to look into if you're curious about it. Digital Foundry goes above and beyond with what they do, and I enjoy everything that they release, especially when it pertains to something that I'm interested in playing and seeing how it looks. So, game looks great, game plays great. Haven't run into any issues just yet, but again, not very far in, right? And I'm getting that Uncharted vibe. Not necessarily saying that, obviously Indy came first before the Uncharted stuff did, but still, Uncharted just did a fantastic job of doing Indiana Jones games without Indiana Jones. And I'm not going to kind of compare the two in that sort of sense. Again, there's a lot of differences there. First person, third person, Sony, Microsoft, whatever the case may be. Also, depending on which game you pick from Uncharted, how far back it goes to what it does. But I tell you, the mechanics are fantastic. As soon as I was doing a wall ledge sort of thing that you would normally expect like Nathan Drake or Lara Croft to do, and you're doing it with Indiana Jones there, I was like, okay. It was taking me a little bit out of it. I'm okay with first person in the game. I know a lot of people are like, third, first. I'm okay with first person. So far, not really been a problem. It does feel a little strange to think that he's walking around with his fists up like this, or however the hand movements are when you're walking in first person or moving around in first person. There's a little bit of like, But it's kind of one of those things, if you remember, not sure when we talked about it, but we talked about Batman. We've talked about Batman a lot on the show. And before they ever put in the Batmobile, we talked about it, and we thought, well, putting in the Batmobile and letting letting gamers drive around in the Batmobile would not be very Batman-like. Because Batman doesn't drive like the way a gamer's going to drive the Batmobile. And sure enough, when they put the Batmobile in the game, exactly, we didn't. It was just carnage all over the place. And you're thinking, well, if you take a property like that and you put them in the shoes or in the hands of a gamer, put his shoes in the hands of a gamer, you're going to run into kind of the same thing, stumbling around, doing these things, being weird. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? If you make a game that's fun, and honestly, I think Machine Games has. If you make a game that's fun, that just works the way it should work, and really delivers everything that it's supposed to, and I'll have more to say on this, I think, next week once I play more of it, but it doesn't matter, and that's going to lead into a little bit of what we're going to talk about when we get to the Game Awards, specifically the Game of the Year award, the presenter and his speech that he gave. I'll read the whole thing. I intend to. I was going to play the whole thing, but I'll read the whole thing for you because I thought it was a great statement that he gave, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. I'm going back through the chat room right now. We got Lethal Migraine. I haven't seen you around in a while, man. I'm glad to have you back. Batman Ryan says, let's do this. Lethal Migraine says, you've had 5 or 6 co-hosts before. Get them to join you. They all went and got lives, man. I stuck around. Mainly because I work here. So, I mean, why wouldn't I? I have the ability to. Why wouldn't I come on and talk about video games? I really enjoy doing that. So... but yeah, they all go around and have lives. So I thought about asking Matt, but Matt is not even in the Discord right now. So he is obviously not. He's busy. He's not able to do it. I have no idea where is James. Yeah, I have no idea where James is. So anyway, let's see. Lethal Migrant says I haven't had much time. He's been playing NHL and Fortnite. I did not take you for a Fortnite guy, Lethal Migrant. AC Wraith says, another first-person camera, another meh rating from me. Yeah, I'm not far enough in to really give you an idea. So far, it's been fine. First person, not really a problem at all. The opening of the game is the opening of Raiders. They recreate the opening of Raiders in the game. I remember reading or watching SkillUp's review, and he's like, that's the worst part of it, because you actually do have something to completely compare it to. And you cannot compare that to something recreated in a game. for a gamer to play. It's not necessarily, it's nice. It's a nice homage. I liked what they were doing and the way they did it to kind of tie it into the story, I guess, or at least just to, the way it fit. But yeah, it's just not comparable. Although I have to say, you can't wipe the smile off my face of playing that introductory level. From something that I was so familiar with and seen so many, many times and watched it, know the beats by heart as far as what's coming, like watching it and say, yep, he's going to step in front of camera here. We're not going to see his face until this point in there. And sure enough, you do. All the little things are there, and it's wonderful in the way they do it. The first time you're plopped in there, man, and know what you're doing, you don't follow the path. You run around in circles. You're running around in all sorts of places. Like, okay, fine. I know the path here from the films, but I can go this way and go back and go over here. There's so many. You can just play in the sandbox, which is not really a sandbox, very linear first part, but you can just play around. And it was fun to do that. There was a scene where, whenever you switch the idle and everything starts falling apart, suddenly you're in first person and you're running the same way that they do in the film, except you're seeing it from a completely first-person angle. You're seeing it from that direction and that viewpoint going through there. It's a really short segment, or at least it can be as short as you want it to, but it can also be as long as you want it to because you can't spend so much time sort of walking around the area and just exploring. But anyway, stuff like that I thought was interesting just to get a different perspective. But we'll see how well it works out as I go through it. Walking around Marshall College, that was great as well. That tells you kind of how far I am into it. Not very far at all. But I do plan to go further with it. It's, even in the little bit that I'm in, extremely engaging. Extremely sort of, let me go a little further. Let me go to the next checkpoint. Let me go to this. Then really, I was playing a lot of that this morning because I was looking for a place to stop. And I was not about to try and play through this or go back through what I had already been. So I was waiting for that save point. But even when it came, I was like, I can play the next one. But no, set it down. Thought it was a good point to stop there. I'll be putting in a lot more time with it tomorrow and in the coming weeks, of course, and be telling you about it as well. What else do we have? I'm sorry, what else do we have? I meant to go back through another first-person camera. Bama Bryan, the voice actor, spot on. Troy Baker does a very good job. He does a very good Harrison Ford. And for the most part, I think the more I play it, the more it'll just sink in to be like, oh, that's Harrison Ford. I begrudged him a bit whenever he took over the Joker duties for Arkham Origins. Hamill wasn't there, or Hamill didn't do the voice for it. They didn't get Mark Hamill. They got Troy Baker to do Joker in that game. And when I heard it, I said, oh, he does a really good Mark Hamill impersonation. He absolutely does. He took what Mark Hamill had done, and he did a version of it that sounded a lot like Mark Hamill. I sort of begrudged him on that. I was like, man, just make it your own. Just walk in there and do it yourself. Take another. I want to say that he's done voice work for Joker in some of the animated little straight to home video type movies that DC has done in their DC animated universe. I want to say that he has done that, and he has done his own version in that. But the one in Arkham Origins just felt like he was doing a Mark Hamill impersonation. So I gave him a little bit of for that. Here, in this situation, I have to give him accolades. I have to give him kudos for it. Just top-notch Harrison Ford impersonation. Really, really good. It helps that they have a very good Harrison Ford-looking face on your character. Although for a while there, early in the game, I had to do some tweaks. My Harrison Ford had really, really blonde gray hair. His eyebrows were like this blonde gray thing. His whole head was blonde gray or whatever it was. And I quickly went to the internet, looked it up, found it that, tweak this setting, it'll go back to normal. And I did. And sure enough, got the color right. But yeah, it's done a great job. I'd love to have more to say on it, but like I said, not very far into it. What else do we have? Thar6 says there is a lot less action in Indy. It reminds me more of Dishonored. He says, I used my gun twice. I finally left the Vatican, and now he's in Egypt. The game is great. I am not even in the Vatican. I was in that section where it says you have to enter the castle, and I don't remember the castle name. It's at night or whatever, and so I'm not there yet in the Vatican, but I'm making my way there. Lethal Migrant says, where's Nate? Well, married with a couple kids. Or kid. I think he's got 2. But yeah, so he's being dad. That's the case. AC Wraith says, you don't get very sim sick, do you? I don't. I'm fine with first-person stuff. I remember that there are people who kind of get a little wobbly with it, who get a little motion sick from first-person games. I am not one of those. It helps that there's a FOV slider that goes above 90, and I'm grateful that it does. Usually I hit around 90 or sometimes 105. And I may open it up a little bit. I have not. So far I haven't touched it, but it's been fine. But again, I have not put the time into the thing. AC Red says first-person mode is dead to me. I hate that, man. It's really, really, I hate, but it makes you sick. I get it. If it makes you sick, that's just the thing, and it's hard to get around that. What else do we have? Thar says sometimes I get a little dizzy, especially at Indy if I play more than 2 hours straight. So yeah. Oh, is that Nate? There's Nate right there. I think you just willed him in, Lethal. I think you just, you invoked his name. Yeah, there you go. He does have 2 kids. See, Nate, I remember. I'm sketchy. Like, in the memory of it, I'm like, I know he's got 1, but I think he had another. Nate says, I have 2 kids, 3 months old, and a 4-year-old. Busy, but certainly playing Path of Exile 2. Good job, man. I try to listen or hop on chat when I can, or when Lethal Migraine invokes your name. So, Thar6 says, I left Indy with the black bars. I like it. I went that route too. Not that it really means anything or changes anything, but when I was looking at the examples of what I was seeing on the screen, you can have it in widescreen, full screen, or cinematic. Widescreen fits. Basically, what it looks like is cinematic has the black bars. Widescreen looks like it's zoomed in enough to fit your screen, and then full screen looks like it's done that even more. Actually, I didn't see a change in full screen. So I went with cinematic on it, and I've been fine with that. Maybe, I don't know. Again, early on, so I can switch it around, do what I want. So, yeah. But anyway. Yeah, well, Nate, I tell you, anytime you want to come back, anytime you want to break from the kids, 2-hour window here at the studio for you. Anytime you want to join us back here on the show. We're going to take a break, and then we'll just dive right into the Game Awards, because we'll probably end up using 90 minutes to talk about that. It was a jam-packed award show. Also, I don't feel like complaining. I'll give the accolades where they're due, and probably have a little critiquing, but I don't feel like normally we have a lot to say about this, and especially last year I think we did, but I don't really think there are still some problems that we've talked about before, but overall I think they kind of found a bit of a foothold here. I think there's a lot they will keep from this one moving forward and tweak a little bit more here and there, I think. But, if you want to throw in what you think, throw it into our chat room there, or throw it up on Discord for us. We'd love to talk to you about it. Let's see, music, before we go to break here. Of course, it is Christmas time, so we got Christmas music that we're using. A lot of stuff we used last Christmas, because they don't make a lot of... Look, you get horror games coming out every year. You don't get Christmas-themed games or levels, although Astro Bot got a Christmas level released. I don't have the music for that, but I'll look it up hopefully for next week to kind of add into the very small pile of Christmas music that we have from video games. This one's from Wario World. It is the Shivering Mountains track. We'll be back with more of in-game chat right after this. Welcome back in to In-Game Chat. You can't help it when this music plays. You just kind of want to give a nice low tone with it. This is from Gran Turismo 5, if you believe that. The name of the track is just called Christmas Tree, which really seems like the only way that you would know it's Christmas, right? Not that you would ever think this is from Gran Turismo 5 anyway, or a Gran Turismo game at all. A racing game, this? No. But there it is. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Jumping into the Game Awards, and I don't really know where to start first. With the winners? With the announcements? With the critiquing? I don't know. Critique number one. I guess that's where we're starting. I don't think that I would say this, depending on probably 10 years ago. Maybe even less than that. Shorten it up. And I don't mean wrap it up. I mean, it's too long. 3-4 hours? I don't know. It started at, the pre-show was at 6:30, and the thing didn't end until 10. So, cut it down. They likely never will. Which is a weird thing to say as it's like a gamer, right? Because we love E3 and we love game announcements. We love getting all these things announced, and you're like, no, you can cut it short. Problem with that, or at least one of the addendums or additional critiques to the length is like, do we need announcements of games that are likely, I don't know, 4 years out? I know we saw a lot of things say in 2025, 2026, 2027. Those 26s and 27s, I don't know. I don't know if you need them. I mean, Witcher 4 is nowhere near coming out next year. I don't know what date was set at the end of that trailer. I don't remember. But there is no way that Witcher 4 gets released next year. Probably in 26, but even then, probably not. The thing about, and this is not me telling you anything new, especially if you follow games enough. The thing about announcing or revealing something that's way into the future means that it's probably even further into the future than what you think, because of the way games take time to develop, the way they have setbacks, the way things kind of like, we got to extend it, we got to delay, we got to do this, we got to do that. You didn't see a single trailer for GTA 6 throughout the entire show. Even though we're pretty certain GTA 6 gets released next year, but you didn't see a trailer for it. You got Witcher 4, which, again, that's coming out way, way down the line. You got Naughty Dog's new game, and we're going to get to all of these specifically, but I'm just talking, I mean, the Ico guys, Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and Last Guardian. It doesn't even have a name. It has that video footage, and that's it. It's currently known as a project right now, and there's no release date attached to it, nothing. So who knows? So while it is fun to kind of get those, to know that, hey, eventually that's coming, okay, we'll not really talk about it until we get more information from it, really. That's kind of how these things work. You remember, just going off of memory here, do you remember when, I don't know how far back it was, but Amy Hennig revealed her game, and I can't remember the name of it. See? But it was that Marvel game that they were working on with Captain America, Black Panther, that sort of thing. You've heard nothing about it since. Nothing at all. Looked great when they showed it off. We've heard nothing since then. And we've heard so little that I don't even remember the name. So I think we'll run into kind of the same thing with a lot of these way down the line releases. So I would say trim the fat, basically. Still give those people time to accept their awards and thank who they want to thank, because that's really, really important. But yeah, just trim the fat a little bit. So that's one of the critiques. And I guess the critiques will come as I go over some of the awards here. And let's do the awards first. It is called the Game Awards and not the Game Previews. So let's hit the awards. Why don't we? I'm not going to do all of them because there are too many, and most of them, esports team, I don't know. Esports athlete, nope. Esports game, nope. Content creator of the year, don't care. Most anticipated game, listen, if Grand Theft Auto 6 is nominated in any category this year, it's going to win because it's got to be for most anticipated, biggest hype, something else, and it's going to win it. Best adaptation. This is the one where it's like, hey, video games that have been turned into television and movies, which this seems to only represent television, I guess. What do you got? Well, Fallout won it. Arcane just started season 2. Watched one episode of season 2. And there's a really special place in my heart for Arcane. That first season was beautiful. The first season of Arcane was wonderful. I loved it. The animation was stellar. The animation was just this beautiful, beautiful, they took cues from, I guess, Spider-Verse animation and things. It's a blend of 2D, 3D animation, and it just looks amazing. And the story they told was fantastic as well. That's not to say anything of Fallout that won it. I liked Fallout, but I don't know. I don't know. Fallout just didn't appeal to me as much as Arcane did. Knuckles I haven't seen. Like a Dragon I have not seen. A Tomb Raider, Lara Croft from Netflix, I haven't seen any of that either. So I can't really speak to that. But between Arcane and Fallout won it, but I would have gone with Arcane. Best multiplayer game, Helldivers 2. Good job on them. It's currently on sale. Pretty cheap, I think, around $30 on Steam. And you could probably find it cheaper than that if you want to play it on console. And it's doing very good. Beat out Call of Duty, which I think in this day and age, that's easy to beat out now. Used to be Call of Duty was a behemoth, but I think now your other games will kind of overshadow that. Call of Duty's just been doing the same thing over and over again. And yeah. So let's see what else. Sports and racing. Simulation. Frostpunk 2. Good job. I've played it. I liked it. I have not played any of the others that were nominated. Best family game, Astrobot. Good job, Astrobot. They took home a lot. Echoes of Wisdom was nominated for that. Plucky Squire, Princess Peach Showtime, and there's a bunch of Nintendo in there, but Astrobot took it. Best fighting game, Tekken 8. Something I wish I could talk to RJ about. Plus, there was a lot of game reveals that I would like to talk to RJ about as well. Best role-playing game, Metaphor ReFantazio. You're going to hear me talk about that, or at least mention the name of that game in further categories. I don't play it. I have no idea. I'm not saying don't play it. I'm saying I don't play it. I have no clue of how that game works, operates. I don't know nothing about it. Best action adventure game, Astrobot. Good job. Best action game, Black Myth Wukong, which may have been that may have been the only win for Black Myth. Which is interesting because it did get nominated a lot, but I think that may be the only win that it got. Best virtual reality game, Arkham Shadow, Batman Arkham Shadow. I would love to play it, but those Quest 3 headsets are going for like $500, so that'll be down the line for me whenever I get around to it. Best mobile game was Balatro. Best debut indie game was Balatro. Best independent game was Balatro. A game you heard me praise and talk about on this show back during its release in February. And I was really happy to see it win those things. I mean, let me go back because I didn't even tell you who they beat out. I mean, best mobile game was Balatro, but it beat out a Pokemon game. That's kind of tough to do, I would think. Best debut indie game was Balatro, and it beat out things like Animal Well, which I've heard really good things about. Manor Lords, which I need to play, actually, because it got nominated in a few things, and it's very kind of up my alley as far as, like, sort of city building type thing. Pacific Drive, which I heard great things about, and Plucky Squire, which is one of those unique, really innovative games that are trying to do something different with what they've got, but Balatro took it. Best independent game. Again, Animal Well was nominated. UFO 50, which I've heard is really good. Neva, which is from the makers of Gree, Neva is a fantastic looking game. I have not played it though. It did win an award, and I'll get to that eventually, but Balatro beat him out. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, there's another one for you. Same guy that did, oh man. Sayonara? I can't remember the name of it. But it was another really high profile game, and yet Balatro took it home. Best community support, Baldur's Gate 3, I guess. I'm not part of the community on any of these. No Man's Sky, Helldivers 2, Fortnite, or Final Fantasy 14. But Baldur's Gate 3 took it. Okay, that's fine. Best ongoing game. Well, the nominees were Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, and Fortnite. Watching the nominees, I was hoping that Destiny 2 wasn't going to win it. Not because, and this is a Destiny shirt, by the way, that I'm wearing, not because I was banned from playing Destiny 2, but given what else was there, Diablo 4 had a major turnaround with its community, I guess, or its content. They really sort of picked themselves up by the bootstrap type thing. Final Fantasy 14 is, I've never heard a bad thing about it. They really did wonders with that game as far as continuing to support it and continuing to add content and to just do good things for the player base that are in there. And so thinking that it would probably win, or that it probably should win. There was Fortnite. I can't tell you anything about Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite. I have no idea if it's a best ongoing game. I felt like it was going to win it just because of the legacy of Fortnite, man. Thing's been around a while, and it makes more news than all the others combined. Even because they bring in the pop culture stuff. They bring in, music artists and things like that to perform shows and stuff. So I figured just name alone recognition would probably make that win, but no, Helldivers 2 takes it. And that's a good thing. The thing, and we'll get to this once we get to all these things. We're going to get to one of the presentation speeches that was done there at the show. And if you go back through and look at the winners, for the most part, on everything that won, the statement that he gives at Game of the Year when he's doing the Game of the Year presentation fits every single one of these categories. Every winner in every single one of these categories. It doesn't necessarily hold true for just Game of the Year, but we'll get to that. Games for Impact. Tales of Kinzera, Zao, I think is the name of that one. Sinuous Saga, Hellblade 2, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Neva, again. Indica is another title, and Closer the Distance. Now, Closer the Distance I don't know anything about. I will look that up. Probably not during a break, but I will look it up because I am curious about it. But yeah, Closer to the Distance. Indica, I'm not sure about Indica or what it is. Really unique trailer, has some very interesting things that it's doing there with perspective and just the way they work with the camera in the game. Neva is, again, the makers of Greed. It was the winner. And so I would just say, look at that. I really don't know exactly what kind of impact it was making. Life is Strange, I don't know. I never played it. Tales of Kinzara, I didn't play it. Sinuous Saga Hellblade 2 was the one that I really wanted to win. Obviously, that talks about, mental situations. The sort of schizophrenia, hearing voices and troubles and things like that a person goes through, or at least that the main character goes through. And that's my connection to it because I had not played any of these other games. And so when it got nominated, I thought, well, my vote's for Sinuous Saga. But Neva won it, and I am looking forward to playing that. Innovation and accessibility. These are games that have a lot of options for accessibility. Say you're colorblind, but you want to play the game. They have a colorblind mode in it. Say you're deaf. They have vibration on the controllers that can tell you different things, or words on the screen that can tell you different things. So, or blind, even things like that. So a lot of these nominees had accessibility above and beyond what most games would. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, taking that one home. Fantastic. I don't know what kind of accessibility it has, but obviously something really, really good there. Best performance. This was the first award of the evening proper, let me tell you that. They had been doing awards throughout the evening where they just kind of went through like, here's the nominees, here's the winner, here's somebody to speak for a while, which I'm glad they did. Last year they just said, here's the winner, moving on. When they said, here's the winner, they gave it to the people waiting right there at the stage, gave it to them, they did a short speech, they moved on to the next category and stuff. But best performance was the first one where presenters came out, and it was Troy Baker, Todd Howard, which is nice because apparently the cutoff for games to be nominated is sometime in, I think it's early in December, I believe. And they, Indiana Jones missed it. Now it's eligible to get nominated next year, but it's got to go a whole like 12 months before that can happen. And man, video game memories don't last that long, given the way things get released. I mean, movie memories don't really last that long as far as that's concerned. So for Indiana Jones to even hold some sort of place, for it to get nominated again next year, or nominated for the first time next year, we'll see. Plus, you're doing it for 2024, but that's a game that released, or 2025, but that's a game released in 2024. It's a little sketchy. Anyway, by having them come out, Troy Baker and Todd Howard, who were talking about Indiana Jones, then they bring out actual Harrison Ford, which was a big surprise at the beginning. There, thinking, okay, there's where the budget went. Yeah, it was interesting seeing him there for that. He did the presentation. He did the award. The nominees, to go through it, my problem is that I haven't played any of these. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Life is Strange, Star Wars Outlaws, Silent Hill 2. All the names in here I'm not familiar with. And I haven't played the games to know how their performance was. The one game that was nominated that I had any idea of the performance was Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Playing Hellblade and then playing Hellblade 2, the woman deserves it. Melina Jurgens is her name. Fantastic. If you haven't, her performance in Hellblade 2, or Hellblade, the first one, is really good. But then what they did for her in Hellblade 2, with the way they had the tech advanced, the way they could map her facial expressions, the way she really had to act these things out because they were capturing voice performance along with acting performance. It's really, really good. Really good. And so I'm really, really glad that she took that one home. I was pulling for her when she won it. I was glad. I was very glad. Happy to see her win it, even though her name got mispronounced by Harrison Ford of all people, which I'm sure she did not mind. Best audio design. Here's another one that I was in for where I have not played any of the others except for one, and it was the winner. Astrobot was nominated, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy Rebirth, and Silent Hill 2. None of which I have played, but the one that won, I have, Hellblade 2. The audio design in that is fantastic because you have to mimic the... If you wear headphones when you play it, and you could have done this in the first game too, but they kicked it up a notch in the second game, you hear these voices, and they're sometimes very whispery, and they're sometimes in the back of your head, depending on how you're listening in headphones. They can do these really cool tricks to where the voice is on different sides, and in the back of your head, or in the front, or in the side, or whatever, and they're doing these whispers, and they're making these noises. Oh, it's just really, really good. And so, yeah, definitely needed to win that. Best score in music, Stellar Blade, Silent Hill 2, Metaphor, ReFantazio. Again, haven't played any of those. Astrobot, haven't played that. But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was the winner. Good job. That's fine. Best art direction, Metaphor, ReFantazio won it. I don't know anything about it. Metaphor, ReFantazio won Best Narrative, beating out Silent Hill 2, which I kind of think... Again, I haven't played that. Metaphor... I haven't played that. I don't know what its narrative is. But Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is really good. Silent Hill 2 Remake, I know the story in that game, and I think it's a really good story as well. Don't know much about Metaphor, though. I'll be jumping into the chat room here in a bit to see what people have said there. But best game direction. Your nominees were Metaphor, again, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, the DLC being thrown in there, Black Myth Wukong, Balatro, and Astrobot. And the game direction winner was Astrobot. So good job for the folks at Astrobot. And then Game of the Year. We got to the Game of the Year at the very end. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, what the nominees and the winner were. We've already talked about this. Balatro was nominated, Black Myth, Elden Ring, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor as well. Balatro being nominated for Game of the Year among all of those others. I mean, seriously, if I put screens of... I could even put just screenshots. Wouldn't even have to have video. I'd take screenshots of all of those games, and Balatro is the one that would stick out. Not because it's great, but because it would look completely different than everything else. Balatro has a very, very pixelated aesthetic, old school type thing, especially if you leave it with the scan lines turned on to make it look like you're playing it on an old tubes television set. Come on. But here it is, Game of the Year. Sole single developer, one person. And he was nominated for Game of the Year. Pulled out at some great wins, too, from earlier. But Astrobot was the one that took it home. And I was happy about that. I was glad that it wasn't Metaphor, only for the fact that I have never played Metaphor, and I really, really wanted Balatro to beat the others out. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I think it's great, but I really don't know anything too much about it. I'm one of those that really didn't play Final Fantasy VII. I have a sneeze coming on. Excuse me. Okay, got it out of my system. Sorry about that. Black Myth Wukong I haven't played, but I mean, it seems to have your standard sort of hack and slash Souls side type of, side dish type of thing. I'm not sure. And then, I mean, there's Elden Ring as well. But it was DLC. And Elden Ring, there was tons of money spent on Black Myth and Elden Ring and Rebirth and Metaphor. I don't know how much money was spent on Astrobot, which was the winner of Game of the Year. But Balatro, you want to talk about a game that probably has one of the largest gaps between how much we spent to make this and how much money it has made? Seriously, man. And how much money it's going to continue to make just for the fact that it got all these nominations and the wins that it pulled out on this thing as well. But Astrobot took it home. I have not yet played Astrobot. I really do want to play it. I absolutely want to play it. It's a platformer type of thing, and it's single player, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. Obviously, it's got Game of the Year on it, so yeah, I think it would be great. Anyway, those are your winners for the Game Awards. And let me jump into the chat room here and see what we've got. Let's see. Batman Brian says very Vince Gilardi trio. Yeah, with the music at the beginning of the show. Sorry about that. Lethal Migraine says, I can honestly say I've paid so little attention to video games lately that I didn't know the awards even happened. What else do we have? Oh, Batman Brian said that Amy Hennig game was Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. That is exactly what I was thinking of, and you pulled the title out, so good job. But it's one of those things where we just don't, it's announced, and then because it's so early in development, we never hear anything about it again for like a year and a half, or ever how long, and so we forget. AC Wraith says it's like Persona. I'm guessing that's Metaphor ReFantazio is like Persona. Rapscallion says Silent Hill and Hellblade were toss-ups for me. Both were dramatic roles about mental dread. Either of those deserve to win. I agree with you. Lethal Migraine says Password Return was probably the only game with a bigger return. Oh, I don't know what that is. But anyway. So there you go. Those are your winners from the Game Awards. When we come back, we'll touch on a little bit of that presentation or the Game of the Year award stuff. But then I want to get into the announcements, and we will be doing that when we come back. Right now, we're going to go out to music from, I was just talking about them, Destiny 2. We've got, they're doing their, what is it called? Festival of the Lights is the Christmas stuff they do in Destiny 2. Kind of glad I don't have to do that anymore. I never had to do it in the first place, but boy, that obligation was strong. This is a track called Bright Spirits. It's from Destiny 2. We'll be back with more of in-game chat right after this. Welcome back into in-game chat. Music here from Diddy Kong Racing. Snowflake Mountain is the name of the track. A little correction from what Lethal Migraine had said. I said Password Return was probably the only, or he said Password Return was probably the only game with a bigger return. It was an autocorrect that got him. It was Pal World. The return on Pal World was probably the only game with a bigger return. Possibly, I really don't. Yeah, I mean, it pulled in the money on that game, so definitely. All right, so before we get into, I don't know, I tell you what, let's jump to the announcements, and then we'll do the critiques last, or at least we'll do the little other 2 points that I kind of want to get to. But let's talk about the announcements. And there are a lot of them. So, let's go down the list as we start this segment here. Ninja Gaiden Rage Bound was a world premiere trailer that was shown at the Game Awards during their little pregame thing. I didn't see it. But it's Ninja Gaiden. So, I'm sure RJ was pleased to see that. These are kind of new to me. I don't remember seeing these because I didn't catch the very beginning of the show, 6:30. I did not tune in at that time. Something called One Move Away, which is kind of it's Tetris for your car trunk, like when you're packing things into the trunk of your car and you have to kind of make sure they all fit. They made a game out of that, so it's called One Move Away. Slay the Spire 2, we got a brand new gameplay trailer for it. 2025 release on that. Dave the Diver in the Jungle. I'm guessing that's DLC, I'm not sure. Because it says, it actually says at the time of this writing, it's unclear whether this is an expansion or a full-blown sequel. But whatever it is, it's coming in late 2025. Thick as Thieves shown off. That's a game from Warren Spector. Thick as Thieves, a multiplayer thief-em-up that blends heist-based stealth with frantic action as you work to beat other would-be hustlers to the punch as you steal high-value treasures from fancy mansions. Coming out in 2026 to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. Another game that I missed that I kind of hated that I missed, and we haven't actually touched on this because I watched it this past week, but Secret Level released on Amazon Prime. And it's an anthology series. I think, 8 episodes were dropped on the 10th this past week. And I watched all 8 of them, one sitting all the way through. I really, honestly, I enjoyed every single one of them. Yeah, the writing isn't good. But it's fine for what it is. For what it's doing, it's absolutely fine. For 15 minutes, for some of these things, for having like 15 minutes or so of content or 25 minutes of content, and that's it, like you don't get a continuation of this. Everything is based on a game property. The first episode's Dungeons and Dragons. And, it doesn't necessarily end. It just it's kind of sits on a to be continued thing. Not necessarily a cliffhanger, but it shows off what it does. Sifu was in there, was another one. Unreal Tournament. Warhammer was in there. Warhammer's great. I'm trying to think of the others that Armored Core. I don't know the lore of Armored Core, but I liked what I saw of Armored Core with Keanu Reeves in it. There was that Amazon game that had Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the voice, and I can't remember the name of the game that it was, but it was the more humorous take on everything there. But there was a Pac-Man version. There was one done for Pac-Man that was so not Pac-Man-y, you know what I mean? Very, very obscure and out there and that sort of thing. Now, the weird part about that is leading up to that episode, people were wondering what this thing is about. They had teased about sort of like it's a really different take on Pac-Man. And I think after the series came out, there was some sort of back and forth that said, when Bandai Namco, who owns the Pac-Man property, they said when they reached out to us, we told them to just make it really strange, make people wonder, how does this relate to Pac-Man? Or, just make people's minds completely confused about the Pac-Man property. Then we get this trailer for a game based on that Secret Level episode called Shadow Labyrinth. Takes a while to make a game. Takes a while to make those Secret Level episodes that they do. It kind of obviously it's an advertisement. It is an episodic length advertisement for the Shadow Labyrinth game that I guess is coming out next year. But it's strange that Bandai Namco would release something saying that, oh yeah, we told them to go nuts with it. No, you collaborated with them. You didn't give them free reign to do this unless way back when you did and said, here's what we've come up with, and they're like, cool, we'll make a game out of that. I really don't know. What came first? The idea for the episode or the idea for the game? And then it turned into, one turned into the other. I'm not really sure. And I've already spent way too much time on this. But Shadow Labyrinth is a gamified version of the Secret Level episode for Pac-Man that's on Amazon Prime. And it is a weird episode. It kind of feels like a roguelike, the game aspect of it. So, anyway. Steel Paws was a new mobile game that was announced. I don't know anything about it. We also had a game called Kiora, which is a pixel sandbox game from the Core Keeper guys. I don't know anything about it. I missed that one. Rematch, which is the next game from the folks that did Seafood, the Slow Cap. 5v5 matches, but other modes will be coming post-launch. It's going to be out next year. It's a kind of soccer-y type game. Solasta 2. I don't know about Solasta 1. Oh, Solasta Crown of the Magister is an enormous RPG, and now its sequel has been confirmed for early access release in 2025. Had no idea. All right, then we get to the show proper, and we get our Witcher 4, the very first reveal. I don't remember seeing, and I'd have to go back and watch this, but I don't remember seeing a lick of gameplay for Witcher 4. It was all cinematic stuff, all CG things, whatever. I have no clue. But it didn't take long for me to realize that what we're getting is Witcher 4 here. And it was only a few weeks ago that CD Projekt Red said, yeah, we are starting development on Witcher 4. So seeing this is me just thinking, you have nothing. You spent your time working on this and have not done anything with the game since then. So that's my thought. But we'll see. Look, it's Witcher 4, right? Which means 1, 2, and 3 obviously did well to get a 4th. So it'll be fine. And I think it'll do well. And we get another premiere type of thing, a big world premiere for now. Yeah, Jeff Keighley was up there. He said it was a standalone game, which at first you're like, okay, interesting that he puts that caveat before the thing gets announced. And of course, it's Elden Ring, Night Rain, with the Elden Ring subtitle Night Rain. It's not necessarily Elden Ring 2, I guess, but it is a standalone game. But it's co-op action survival. And it's coming next year. So we'll see. Don't know. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming to PC. We kind of figured that was the case, just didn't know when. And it's coming to PC on January 23rd, which is a lot sooner than I would think when you go from PS5 or go from console to PC. A lot of times when Sony does this, it takes a minute for them to put their titles on PC. But you know, if we're shortening that window of when a PlayStation 5 title gets released on console and then gets released on PC, that's fine by me. Keep getting it shorter and shorter. There was a game called Catly. It's a photorealistic fantasy cat adventure. Next game up, I'm not going to go much further with that. The next game up was Project Robot. I really can't tell you much about that because we don't know much about it. We know that it is Fumito Ueda, who, you know, they did Ico, they did Shadow of the Colossus, they did The Last Guardian. 3 games that are held in high regard by a lot of people. And while I have never finished Ico or really played all the way through it, and I'd like to go back and do that. In fact, hopefully with this, they'll do some remasters. They remastered Shadow of the Colossus, and I went back and I played through that. I attempted to start Last Guardian again, but I didn't. Still, those are 3 fantastic titles in the Sony portfolio there. And to get another one from this creator is something I'm looking forward to. Even though all we know is that it's called Project Robot. We really don't know much about it. You know, you got a guy who's climbing a massive, gigantic mech, what seems to be a mech, before this impact wave comes through. I don't know. You don't know. It's not a lot, and you don't have a lot of context as far as what's going on. But that's it. There is no year, there is no title, there is nothing. That's all we got. And it's all we'll have for a good while. I'm hoping that this doesn't end up like Last Guardian. Last Guardian took forever to get released, to the point that I had really kind of written it off as like, I'll wait and see. I just kind of forgot about it. And then it got released, which is great. But, yeah. That one I'm looking forward to. Outer Worlds 2 got a brand new trailer from Obsidian, and that's coming out in 2025. Good job on that. It's Obsidian, and it's Outer Worlds 2. It's a sequel. You know what you're getting. Split Fiction, brand new game from the folks who did It Takes Two, which they all do co-op type games. So this is a co-op game. You and a friend. You get to take control of 2 writers who get trapped in a simulation of their respective fantasy and sci-fi novels. Each character will have their own special weapons and items that evolve over time and complement each other when it comes to solving puzzles. It's coming in March of 2025 from that studio. Steel Hunters. Looked like it was Apex Legends meets mechs from World of Tanks, is what this article is saying here. Great. Don't know much about it. A beta test was released that same night. The Long Dark 2, Black Frost. I didn't play The Long Dark. It's a survival sort of... It's one of those things that tracks, hey, you're hungry, you need to eat. Hey, you're thirsty, you need to drink. Hey, you're tired, you need to sleep. Hey, you also should do some exercising or get out or do whatever. It's one of those, minutia scale monitor type games that monitor everything you're doing, and you have to survive by that. I don't like it. I do not like it. Borderlands 4. That's it. Borderlands 4. I have nothing to say about that. I'm not the biggest fan of Randy Pitchford, for one. And Borderlands 3, I barely cared about. I think I own it. I think I eventually picked it up somehow. Never played it, but I just... I never cared about it. And then Borderlands 4. Then they did the movie, which, again, I didn't watch, but I don't know. It's going to take a lot for them to get me interested in their game. And so far, I'm not. But we'll see. It comes out next year, apparently. We got a crossover for Tekken 8. That was just a new character added into Tekken 8 from Final Fantasy 16. Splitgate 2, which I don't even remember Splitgate 1. It says the first Splitgate was something of a phenomenon in 2019, and now the sequel to this Portal FPS game is coming out in 2025. So yeah, everybody can make portals and you can move around, but you're also doing a multiplayer combat type thing. So yeah, I didn't play the first one. That's all I can tell you. Virtua Fighter. We got a brand new trailer for Virtua Fighter. RJ will be happy about that. Curious what he thinks about it. Project Century is also being made by the Like a Dragon devs RGG Studio. When that was showing off, I got vibes of this is a Like a Dragon title, I bet. Again, that's a series I'm kind of interested in and should probably try them out. That and Helldivers 2, really. Something I should do. Turok Origins. I saw the dinosaurs, man, and the hunting thing, and I was like, maybe it's a Turok thing, or maybe this is just a Jurassic Park thing. Actually, I thought it was Jurassic Park first, and then the more it went on, I was like, it's a Turok thing. Sure enough, it was Turok. Warframe 1999 got its final trailer and a release date, which is today. It came out today. What else do we get? Pal World is getting an update called Faybreak, I guess. It's coming out on December 23rd. Onimusha, Way of the Sword. I haven't heard the Onimusha titles in a while. That's from Capcom, and that is coming out in 2026. Sure it is. The First Berserker, a new game that it's a cinematic trailer for a dark fantasy RPG that didn't show off any actual gameplay, but it did come out with a release date, March 27th, 2025. Dying Light: The Beast got a brand new release window, summer of 2025 on that one. I haven't followed along with Dying Light for anything. Stage Fright looks kind of cool. It's from the makers of the Overcooked games, which is odd because it doesn't look like it sort of sits into that genre at all, but I don't know. It's from the Overcooked guys, a new co-op adventure. So yeah, we'll see how that is, but yeah, next year for that one. Boy, I had forgotten there was a Game of Thrones game that was due out. Game of Thrones King Road. And most of this just felt like how many actors did we get the likenesses of correct in our trailer? From all the Game of Thrones, or from the Game of Thrones series on HBO. So it's Warner Brothers and HBO trying to make a Game of Thrones game. I think if this were closer to the old series and not, House of Dragons that we got going on now, and what is it? Duncan Egg or whatever that we're getting later on, another series for Game of Thrones. I think this would have been kind of a fanfare type thing. As it was, it felt like it was a whimper of an announcement.
just kind of a puff of smoke. Just there you go. Whereas it should have been something that was like, wow, Game of Thrones, you get to play as one of the Night's Watch, and you get to battle alongside Jon Snow, and you get to dragons and things, and great, but no. All I kept seeing was, hey, they got that guy's face right. Hey, that guy looks like himself from the show. That guy looks like himself from the show. That's it. No real desire to play this thing, but at the same time, it's just it's a trailer. It's coming out next year. We'll see if they're going to show off some more stuff from the game itself. Last of Us Part 2 Remastered coming to PC. That was like, sure, whatever. Sonic Team Racing Cross Worlds. It was just a very small teaser with Shadow the Hedgehog, at the very least of, it will answer some questions, blah, blah, blah. Only time will tell. Yeah, it's Sonic Racing, Sonic Team Racing, which was really good, and they're doing another one in that vein, sure. Just release all the Sonic. We got a brand new Sonic movie coming out in a few weeks. This coming Friday, I think. Mafia: The Old Country. The announcement for that one, that was something I was really looking forward to. It kind of got leaked earlier, before a couple of days before the show. But we had already heard that they were doing something with the Mafia series and kind of going back in time with it. They had moved the Mafia series forward in time from, the 20s to the 40s, the 50s. They even got into like the 70s with them a little bit there, and now they're going way, way back for the game. Dispatch. Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey got up there to talk, and the entire time I'm thinking, man, you guys are talking for a long time when you could be using this time to show us a game. Again, my main complaint, the show was too long, and this banter going back and forth felt like it was adding nothing to what we were seeing, or what we were going to see. But Dispatch is an animated superhero game where you dispatch heroes to fight crimes around the city. Now, the trailer said it was from the studio behind The Wolf Among Us and Tales from the Borderlands, but it's not Telltale. The studio behind this one is called Ad Hoc. There is no release date yet, but I'm thinking probably, I don't know how far they've got. I don't know how far into this they are, so maybe next year. Late next year, if not early 2026, but I don't know. I liked it though. I liked what they were showing off. Oh boy, we got the Okami sequel. I never played Okami. I think I had it for one of the systems, probably the Wii or the Wii U or something like that, but I never played Okami. It was apparently a big deal for this release, and I'm not, I'm not stepping on anybody who enjoyed that or who got any sort of thrill out of the announcement of an Okami sequel. That's great. I'm glad that you enjoy that, but I haven't played the first one, so I don't know how big of a deal getting a sequel is right now. I just know it's kind of beloved, and so. Yeah. Whenever these things sort of release like this, it was when Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced and a couple of other things. Like, I don't play those games, but I know there's a massive audience for them. And when they get something like this and they get excited about it, I get excited for them. So that's why I'm glad it was there. And then the final game of the night we thought was the Okami sequel. And again, Okami, who knows? We got no gameplay out of that. We really got nothing but basically a title. You're probably looking at 2027 for the release of that. Then we got the next Naughty Dog game. Neil Druckmann and the team at Naughty Dog showed off their next title. It was not an Uncharted title. It was not a Last of Us title. It was not, any of their other previously, was Jak and Daxter, I believe. Any of those games at all either. Completely different, called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Really good looking trailer. I mean, it's Naughty Dog. You know what they do. You've seen Last of Us. You've seen Last of Us 2. You've seen the Uncharted series, Lost Legacy, Uncharted 4. You know how it works. And looks really, really good. Space Bounty Hunter, fantastic. I just don't know exactly how it plays or how it's going to play, But yeah, that's what we got from our big announcements from the Game Awards. There you go, jam-packed with announcements. I tell you, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff that made that show 3 hours long, which is basically the length of most award shows. I get it, just too long. That's mainly my main critique from here, but we're going to go over some of the critiques and stuff coming up after the break. So going out here, we've got a track from Monster Hunter World. This says Winter Star, and then it's got something else out there, so I'm not sure exactly what it says, but Winter Star is the name of this track from Monster Hunter World. We'll be back with more of In-Game Chat right after this. Welcome back into In-Game Chats. Of course, music here from Batman Arkham Origins. Carol of the Bells. Love that game because it takes the entire game takes place over Christmas Eve night as Batman. It's great. It's wonderful. All right, so we've gone through the review. Let me jump into the chat room and read everything that came that people were talking about while I was going over all those announcements. Rapscallion says cozy moving game. Yeah, I mean, we've always played Trunk Tetris. I played it plenty of times. I play Tetris in everything. If I am putting things into things and I have to make them fit, that's what you play. You Tetris the thing, you know? So that's how it works. So yeah, making Trunk Tetris a game, perfectly fine. Lether Maggard says, Scott, when are you going to do a video game voiceover? When I guess apparently when I join a union. I think there's other ways to do that, but from what I understand, a lot of companies they have to hire within their union, so it kind of puts me out. And I say union, but was it Screen Actors? Yeah, SAG is usually where they're pulling from for the big stuff. But I certainly would take a small little voice role for anything. Tried to get in one of the Twisted Pixel games, Explosion Man or Comic Jumper or something like that, but I got my name in one, but never got my voice in one. Let's see. Ico is my AC Wraith says Ico is my favorite, nice and compact. He also says, granted, he has not played Last Guardian. It's rather long, but man, I can't get over it. You're playing as Trico. I say you're playing as Trico, but having a pet winged dog thing is just wonderful. And also, you know what happens. This is a game. Look, Last Guardian is a game about a little boy and his big old dragon-looking pet. So what are you going to do when you got to bring the emotion, right? I'm giving looks to the camera when I'm saying this, so that you can, which you can't see over the radio, but I'm sort of, in my voice, I'm saying the same thing. You know what's happening. I always say this. Any movie that features an animal on the front of the poster, you know what happens. So, yeah. Let's see. Lethal Migrant says, Mafia is always fun. Great music. Yes, you're exactly right. And AC Ray says, I loved Okami on PS2. So, yeah. All right, let's throw some critiques around of the Game Awards. And honestly, I don't have a lot. There are very few notes I want to give. The biggest note is shorten it. Bring it down. The next note maybe that I would give is, and maybe they did this and I just didn't pay attention to it, make it real apparent when you're taking a commercial break and when you're coming back from a commercial break. Have something that is a buffer between the two, because in a show that is showing off advertisements for new games, when a legit commercial comes on, it kind of gets lost, right? And maybe that's the point, but I would like it if they were very, very specific about, like, here are commercials, here's the show proper, right? So I would like that. And I don't necessarily mean for the world premieres. I'm talking about the actual paid-for advertisements, which is also what those world premieres are, but you understand what I'm saying. So, yeah. That's about it, really. Keighley kind of took a back seat on this one and kind of, poked fun at himself. He has, Jeff Keighley has I have no idea what, some kind of contract or relationship with the Muppets of all things, which I'm fine with. You have to understand how much of a Muppet fan I am. And brilliant of them. I'm going to get real serious talking about Muppets for a minute. Brilliant of them to have Statler and Waldorf be the sort of, little bitty vignettes that they did, ever how often they did them. I don't know, like 3 or 4 times they did them. And all they were used were exactly what Statler and Waldorf was used to do. Heckle. Not only did they heckled with writing that you could have pulled off any video game forum over the last few years that talked about complaints of the show. They were brilliant and fantastic, and it was a great. What's there's a term where, it's a defense mechanism. You make the joke before somebody else does, so that they don't have, they don't have that power over you to whatever. You get in there before they do. And the brilliant part about that is that, yeah, they're going to make those jokes because they're the same jokes that are made every year about the way Keighley runs the show, about how long the show is, about the advertisements in the show, all sorts of different things there. It was fantastic. And I thought it was really great that they used them to sort of head them off at the pass for all the other complaints that you would get. To be honest with you, a lot of the complaints or a lot of the little barbs and little things that the Statler and Waldorf were throwing out were from previous shows. There were a lot of things that were fixed in this show. Like I said, they didn't speed run through the awards, which was nice. People got a chance to talk and thank the people. I don't remember anybody that got, sung off or told to hurry up, wrap it up, get off stage, that sort of thing. I don't remember anything like that. For this year, it feels like everybody got their due. Things were good. You didn't have... Listen, there were a few moments where Keighley was on the brink of tears while trying to introduce a brand new reveal. And that's great. I'm glad he's passionate about it. I'm not going to begrudge him on that. But he didn't bring his friends on stage and buddy with him. He did bring them on stage, but he didn't do his usual buddy stuff with them. I just think it was a very well improved show. And I think a lot of what they did with this one will carry over into the next with a few minor tweaks. So I really think it was done very, very well. And having that to sort of, throw the insults out there was really, really good. And funny as well. And anytime you can include the Muppets, it's a win for me. So, there. That kind of covered everything that I sort of had to critique with it. Those were some brilliant things that they did. When they did the speedrun awards, not awards for people who do speed runs, but when they did the thing where it's like, here's the nominees for this thing, here's the people that won. Here's the nominees for this, here's the people that won. They actually had people getting those awards, picking those awards up, and giving a small speech about it as well. And so I thought that was good. One of the other critiques from the years, well, especially from last year, because of all the layoffs, this year was no different. A lot of layoffs. I mean, just prior to this thing, we had more layoffs in studios. Like, I think 99 or 100 people from Warner Brothers Montreal. Ubisoft did an entire team of people let go. I mean, it's not the best. And so I'm not exactly sure what he won for. But, and I'm trying to think here what it would have been. I'm just going through the notes here, but I can't see anything. But his name was Amir Satvat. His whole story was done in this thing, and you can look it up if you need to. I'm not going to really go over all of it. But when people started losing their job, he created a resource for game developers who had lost their job to find other jobs, to find other people to talk to. It became apparently a very good resource. They did a really, really well done video about what he offered. And when he got up on stage to accept his award and how emotional he was, not just accepting it, but talking about the game industry. It was really touching to see. And it was something that sort of hit home, and I'm sure I don't work in game development, but there's plenty of people I know who do. There's also people who work in game development who've lost their jobs multiple times over. It's not steady ground working in video games. You know what I mean? You get hired on, your game gets released, maybe you come back for some more stuff if it sells well. If not, you're let go not too long after. It kind of sucks. But yeah, it was nice to have him up there to talk about that. And that was definitely a course correction from what happened last year. So good on them for doing that. And then the other presentation, or at least the other thing, is the award for Game of the Year. The CEO of Larian Studios, Sven Vink, I think. I could be mispronouncing that. I probably am, if you know me. But he was up there to present. He won last year for Baldur's Gate 3 winning Game of the Year. And we talked about this last year when we did it, about how he got cut off. He was up there giving a speech, and they're like, hey, you need to wrap it up. You need to get done. Get off the stage. What? We just won Game of the Year. Let us give our thanks and say what we want to say. In fact, the next day or a couple of days afterwards on their website, he had his entire speech that he had for everybody to read so they could see it. But, yeah, he got to come up there, and one of the things that he said was that, hey, since I got cut off, I'm gonna take some time here to say what I want to say. And what he said was really, really good. He started off by saying that not only will he be the first person to know who wins Game of the Year, he also knows who will win the next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. He learned this information, he said, from an oracle who told him that change is coming. The oracle told me that the Game of the Year 2025 is going to be made by a studio who found the formula to make it up here on stage. I know that sounds like a cop-out, right? No. Keeps going. He goes on to say, it's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps getting lost. A studio makes a game because they want to make a game they want to play themselves. They created it because it hadn't been created before. They didn't make it to increase market share. They didn't make it to serve the brand. They didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets or fear being laid off if they didn't meet those targets. Furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue and didn't serve the game design. They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. And they didn't make decisions they knew were short-sighted in function of a bonus or politics. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism and wanted players to have fun. And they realized that if the developers don't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. They understood the value of respect. That if they treated their developers and players well, the same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their games because they love games. It's really that simple. It absolutely is. Now, take those words that you just heard and you'd have to go back and look at the winners in the categories. Look at Balatro winning ever how many times it wins. Sole developer making his own game and making a game he wanted to play. With no bloat. With no things to make you buy into it more than what it is. Same thing. Game of the year was Astrobot, right? There's not monetary options in that game. There's no store inside the game where you go and buy other things to use in the game with real world money. No, you buy the game once, you're good. That's it. Prince of Persia Lost Crown, same thing. Probably, I don't know about Metaphor ReFantasia. I really don't. So I can't really speak to that. So I'm not sure. But Hellblade, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2 was a winner there. Fantastic game. That is definitely, you look at that game and you look at how it did, it's not one of those games that was trying to reach marks. I'm sure Microsoft is not necessarily overly thrilled about its performance, but it's a beautiful game, and I encourage you to play it. This article I'm reading here says, this isn't the first time that he has spoken out against profit-driven industry practices that have led to a decimation of the video game industry over the past few years. In March, he blasted the corporate greed that's devastated game studios, saying, I've been fighting publishers my entire life, and I keep on seeing the same mistakes over and over and over. It's always the quarterly profits. The only thing that matters is the numbers. Yeah, and then it goes into the Amir Stepvat for his work supporting laid-off game developers as they seek new employment in the industry. As is his way, Vinnick ended his story on an upbeat note, and I'm quoting him here. Winning Game of the Year turned out to be a life-changing event for us at Larian Studios. It was an amazing thing. To those who will win Game of the Year 2024, you have no idea what's waiting for you. It's an incredible honor, and you're in for a heck of a ride. And remember, should you be told to wrap it up for tonight, you can always come back next year and chat for 3 minutes, which is exactly what he did. That's a really cool guy. I really like him. He should publish a blog, and maybe he does, just about game development and what he does. He should give something like every month, every week, something. He should write an article about game development because I want to hear more of his ideas. But he's absolutely right. Go back and look at those winners in a lot of those categories, and you're going to find games that were made exactly like he says. A lot of those not really made for profit type stuff. Helldivers 2. Again, a game I haven't played. It has a battle pass type thing, but it's not predatory in what it's offering. You can get by on not even doing that if you want to. You can still have fun with the game. I'm trying to think of others that were in there that would have won, even though Balatro, Astrobot, of course, took home a lot. And that's another game. And I mean, you could probably take their acceptance speech, which I don't have, but that guy was the head of that studio was basically echoing the same thing. We made a game that we wanted to play. We remember when we got our first system and it came packed in with a fantastic game. It was a little gray box with a game attached, and that game was Super Mario Brothers. Played it for ages. We all did. And that is a single player, not trying to make more money than what it's doing, and that's all you need. There's a baseline for it. And every game can reach that. it comes down to the suits that are the problems. It's the publishers that are the problems. It's the money folk. I say the bean counters, but I don't even want to use that term. But it's not the accountants. It's the executives. Then again, so take what he said outside of the Game Awards and look at what succeeded and maybe what failed. Basically, take what he said and then go look at Suicide Squad from Rocksteady. Fantastic studio, wonderful studio that made really good games. And then they were set on a path that is exactly what he was talking about. Meeting goals, meeting revenue charts, hitting numbers, targets, things like that. Monetizing as much as you can monetize out of the game to squeeze every last drop out of that purchase. They ain't just got to buy it once. They got to put more money in it for more and more months ahead. In the long run on games like that, say Destiny 2, that sort of thing, that makes sense. Your game was sold or is available for free. You're going to have to make money somehow, and that's fine. You offer that as an option, but people can still play it. But yeah, that was really great to hear, and he was spot on with it. So yeah. Anyway, I think that is going to wrap things up here. Let me jump over again and check out the Twitch chats to see if anything has said. Muppets are unrestricted free agents, says Lethal Migraine. Self-deprecating humor, yes. Bam O'Brien, that is exactly what it is. Not just that, but it's just sort of getting it out there before everybody else gets it out there. But honestly, when I read through some of the forum posts, a lot of it's just like, hey, it's too long, but everything else, perfect. You know, they really corrected. They didn't overcorrect. They absolutely corrected the criticisms, not just from last year, but previous years as well. And I think they'll continue to kind of tweak that. But I think they found a good footing to continue from there, to build off of. Make this your base and build from it to make a better show. And I think they will. I absolutely think they will. And maybe, that's personal preference. It's going to start it earlier. I have to be up at 4:30 in the morning, so staying up till 10 is tough. But I have to see the games, right? Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, listen. Next week, RJ will be back. We will likely touch up some more on these Game Awards, just some of the stuff that he missed out on, and to get his thoughts on that, specifically the fighting games. But there was a lot more that we didn't get into. People Can Fly Studios, that was another one that had a big layoff. 120 employees dropped just this past week. So, yeah. We didn't get into the NZXT situation that's going on. But I'll keep that for next week, probably. We'll see. But next episode will be our last for the year. So, anyway, hopefully you'll tune in. Gonna leave you here with a game called Bar Oasis 2. I shrugged towards the camera. This is called Silent Night. Have a fantastic week, folks, and we will see you next Saturday for more of In-Game Chat. Good night.